It was supposed to be a quick stop. Just grab Allie, load the car, and hit the road before traffic got bad. We'd been planning this camping trip for months. One last weekend of freedom before graduation came crashing down with final exams and real-world expectations. No parents, no chaperones, just a handful of friends, a half-busted tent, and enough junk food to shame a gas station. It was the kind of trip teenagers romanticized and rarely pulled off. But somehow, we were making it happen. Allie and I had been best friends since 5th grade, the kind of friendship built on inside jokes, sleepovers, and shared secrets that somehow lasted through awkward phases and teenage drama. She was my ride or die. Which is why it made sense that we'd carpool up together, just the two of us. Her playlist, my driving, a perfect system. The day before, we'd asked our parents if we could skip school to get a head start on the weekend. Somehow, miraculously, they both agreed. So, around noon on Friday, I pulled up in front of her house, the sun warming the hood of my car and the soft rumble of my favorite playlist humming beneath it. That's when I saw him. Adam Kingston, Allie's dad. Or as most people called him, Mr. Kingston. He was outside by his truck, wearing loose gray sweats that clung dangerously low on his hips, a white tank top streaked with water, and sneakers that looked older than me. His salt and pepper beard was trimmed close, his dark hair pushed back just enough to show off the silver at his temples. A sponge in one hand, a beer in the other, and a slow grin stretched across his face the moment he saw me. "Caleb," he called out, voice warm and booming. God help me. I hadn't seen him in weeks, not since that afternoon with Officer Daniels, and something about me had changed since then. I stood straighter now, carried myself with a little more fire. And yet, the second I saw Adam Kingston jogging toward me, smile wide and arms open, I felt all that confidence flicker like a candle in the wind. He wrapped me in a hug that smelled like soap and sunshine, then pulled back, gripping my shoulders like I was a prize catch. "You've got to stop calling me Mr. Kingston," he said, eyes glinting. "Call me Adam, or better yet, call me King." King. That name hit me square, in the chest. I must have blushed because he chuckled and gave my shoulder a friendly shake before stepping back. "Well, okay then. King," I said, managing a smile as my face heated. "Attaboy," he winked. "You're early. Allie and Sarah ran out to grab a few last-minute things. They'll be back in an hour, maybe 2. I blinked and instinctively checked. My phone. 3 unread texts from Allie. Crap. I didn't realize. "I can come back later if it's a bad time." "Don't be ridiculous," King cut in. "You're always welcome here." He turned toward the house and tilted his head. "Come on. I just cracked a cold one, and the AC's running strong." I hesitated for a beat, but he was already halfway up the porch, motioning for me to follow. I swallowed hard and stepped out of the sun, into the soft, cool air of the Kingston home. It was supposed to be a quick stop. But something told me nothing about this visit would go as planned. The cool air of the Kingston house wrapped around me, like a blanket the second I stepped inside. Familiar smells, cedar wood, old leather, a hint of laundry detergent, drifted in from the hallway. The place always felt like it belonged in a magazine. Rustic, lived in, but just polished enough to say someone cared. King disappeared into the kitchen with a muttered, "Make yourself at home," and a moment later, returned with 2 drinks. Iced tea for me, a beer for himself. He handed mine over with a grin, his fingers brushing mine just slightly longer than necessary. "You still sweet tea or unsweet?" he asked, settling into the deep corner of the sectional. "Unsweet," I replied, sitting on the opposite end of the couch. "Trying to stay healthy." He gave me a mock-offended look. "That's sacrilege in this house." I smirked behind the rim of the glass. "Guess I've always been a little rebellious." That earned a soft chuckle from him. He tipped his beer back, then leaned into the cushions with an easy sigh. "So, you all packed for this camping trip?" "Just about. Got Allie's stuff in the trunk too, since we're driving up together." King nodded, his gaze settling on me with something gentler than curiosity. "You excited?" "Yeah. It'll be good to get away for a bit. Reset before finals. Plus, I think we all kind of needed this. One last high school memory thing." He nodded again, slower this time. "You deserve that. You've worked hard, Caleb." That made my chest tighten a little. Compliments from him always hit differently, like he wasn't just saying it because he was supposed to, like he meant it. There was a quiet moment, the kind that should have felt awkward but didn't. Just the soft tick of a wall clock and the hum of the fridge behind us. Then King spoke again, his voice casual but edged with something warmer. "You know, you've grown up a lot this year." I raised an eyebrow. "Yeah?" He shrugged, letting his eyes rest on me a beat longer than they needed to. "Yeah. You carry yourself differently now. More sure of who you are." That sparked something in my stomach. I glanced down at my glass to hide the flush I felt rising. "Well, maybe I'm figuring it out." "I can see that," he said. "There's a confidence in you now." There was a pause, and then he added with a smirk, "And don't think I didn't notice you actually called me king earlier." I laughed, rolling my eyes. "You told me to." "Sure, but I didn't think you'd actually do it." "You always get what you want?" I teased. King leaned back, grinning over the lip of his beer. "I do okay." There was something in his tone, lazy, comfortable, but undeniably flirtatious. I felt my pulse tick up. "So," he continued, shifting gears smoothly, "you dating anyone?" The question caught me off guard, though not entirely. "No, not really." "That surprises me. The girls at Allie's school think you're adorable," I laughed lightly. "They don't know me that well." King studied me for a moment. "You're always around girls. I've noticed that. But you don't really seem interested." My throat tightened. I looked away, pretending to trace the rim of my glass with my finger. He didn't press, not at first. Then he said it, gently, without judgment, just curiosity wrapped in kindness. "Are you gay, Caleb?" The words hung there between us, soft and enormous. I didn't speak right away. I felt the heat crawl up my neck. My chest tightened, not in fear, but in anticipation, like something was cracking open just slightly. I nodded. Just once. King didn't flinch. He didn't lean forward or lean away. He just gave a small, knowing smile and said, "Thought so." I blinked. "Really?" He shrugged, eyes kind. "It's not a bad thing. I just always thought there was something quiet about you. Like you were carrying something that hadn't found its voice yet." My lips parted, but I couldn't quite find words. I'd never had someone, especially not a man like him, say something like that to me. It didn't feel like being called out. It felt like being seen. King raised his beer again and added with a wink, "Besides, you're too damn pretty to be straight." That broke the tension. I let out a laugh and shook my head. "Okay, that's the second time someone said that. To me." King's eyebrows lifted. "Is that right?" I sipped my tea. "Long story." "Well," he said, setting his bottle down, "you'll have to tell me sometime." His gaze lingered on me again, but now it felt different, charged, curious, patient, like he wasn't just making small talk anymore, like he was waiting. King leaned forward to grab another beer from the side table fridge, his fingers wrapped around the bottle like he'd done it 1,000 times. He twisted off the cap and took a slow drink, like he was biding his time. Then, without warning, he said, "You want to hear something funny?" My heart beat once. Hard. "Sure." I went out for drinks a couple weeks ago with an old buddy, cop I used to coach softball with back in the day. My grip tightened around my glass. I didn't blink. He couldn't stop grinning. Said he'd had the kind of day that made you believe in miracles. King chuckled, swirling the neck of his bottle. Told me some wild story about pulling over this car. 2 kids, loud music, someone speeding through a school zone. He glanced at me casually, but there was something sharp behind his eyes now, watching me too closely. I didn't say a word. Said the driver was polite, nervous, real pretty. And when I say pretty, I mean he used those exact words. "Prettiest little thing I've ever pulled over," he said. The breath in my chest thinned. King tilted his head. And then he started describing this kid. Dark curls, soft mouth, Looked like he couldn't be a day over 20. I swallowed hard but kept my posture relaxed. Almost, he went on, voice low now. Told me this kid got flustered. Said he'd make the ticket disappear if the boy was interested. My mouth went dry. Wouldn't give me a name, of course, he said. But the way he talked about it, the detail, the enthusiasm. He raised his eyebrows, said it was the best conversation he'd had all month. My cheeks flushed with heat, but I didn't look away. I knew where this was going. And then I get home that night, King said. And Allie casually mentions how you two got pulled over. Right around that time, right near that street. He let that hang in the air like smoke. So I start thinking, he said. What are the odds? I smiled slowly and set my drink down. Pretty good, apparently. King leaned back, eyes narrowing slightly. So it was you. I gave a small shrug. I didn't say that. But you didn't deny it either. I met his gaze, let the tension stretch like a held breath. What would be the point? For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then he laughed under his breath and shook his head. Jesus, Caleb. His tone wasn't angry. If anything, it was impressed, maybe even turned on. I'm not judging you, he said, more serious now. I just can't believe it. The things he said, what you did. His eyes dropped for a second, just a flick to my mouth. He caught himself and looked away. My lips curved. You're blushing, King. No, I'm not. You are. He cleared his throat and took a drink. I just didn't expect you to own it. I leaned back against the cushions, stretching my legs out casually. Well, you said it yourself. I'm more confident now. King gave a dry chuckle. Apparently. I let the quiet settle, then added, besides, I liked it. That got his attention. His eyes flicked to me again, sharper this time. I liked being wanted, I said, voice low. Liked being seen. He sat still, the hand on his beer tightening. And maybe I liked the way he talked to me, I added. Told me what a good boy I was. Told me I was talented. King's lips parted like he was about to speak, but didn't. I leaned slightly closer. Not enough to cross the line. Just enough to fog it. Would you like to hear exactly what he said about me? King let out a breath, slow and shaky. Caleb. I tilted my head. You don't have to be shy. He blinked hard, then stood abruptly. I need another beer. I watched him walk to the kitchen, the way his broad shoulders carried that tension now. Not anger, not discomfort. Want. He came back with the bottle, but he didn't sit down right away. Just stood there, like he was still trying to process what I was turning this afternoon into. You're dangerous, you know that? He muttered. Only if you let me be. He looked at me for a long second, and then he laughed again. But this time, it was quieter. Darker. God help me. King stood with the new beer in his hand, but he hadn't taken a sip. The bottle just hovered near his chest, forgotten. His eyes flicked to mine again, and when I smiled softly, reassuringly, he finally exhaled and returned to the couch. He didn't sit at the far end this time. Closer. Not close, but enough to notice. The air between us was still humming from everything unsaid. He shifted once, then again, as though he couldn't quite get comfortable. His knuckles tapped lightly on the glass bottle resting on his thigh. I took another, slow sip of my tea and broke the silence. Can I make you a deal? He glanced at me, one eyebrow rising. That depends. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees, fingers wrapped loosely around the glass. I'll show you something, but in return, I want a secret from you. He tilted his head slightly. What kind of secret? I shrugged. Something real. Something you haven't told anyone. King let out a low laugh, but it didn't sound casual. You trying to blackmail me now? No, I said, meeting his eyes. I just want a little balance. You've been finding out things about me all day. I think it's only fair. He hesitated, then nodded once. All right, deal. I set my glass down and stood up slowly, walking over to him. He didn't move, just looked up at me, cautious but curious. I could feel his eyes following me, studying my body language, trying to guess where I was going. I knelt beside the couch, his lips parted, barely. "Relax," I murmured. "Not what you're thinking." I held out my hand, palm up. "Give me your fingers." He hesitated, then slowly extended his hand, unsure. I took his pointer and middle finger, gently holding the rest curled toward his palm. "What are you doing?" he asked, voice quieter now. "Just showing you something I'm proud of." I opened my mouth and guided his fingers across my tongue, slow, smooth. Let them trail toward the back of my throat. I didn't gag. Instead, I held him there, letting my throat tighten gently around the tips of his fingers. His breath caught. I could feel it, not just hear it. A slow, involuntary sound in the back of his throat. I looked up, locking eyes with him. He was frozen, like he didn't know whether to pull away or stay exactly where he was. "Holy," he whispered, barely audible. "Caleb." I let his fingers slide out slowly, closing my lips around them in one last teasing motion. Then I sat back on my heels and smiled. His hand was still in the air, suspended, like it didn't know how to return to his body. "You okay?" I asked, playfully. He finally blinked and pulled his hand back, letting out a shaky breath. "You're gonna kill me." "No," I said, "but I want what you promised." His laughter this time was softer, less guarded. He rubbed the back of his neck and looked away for a moment. When he looked back, something had shifted. The flirtation was still there, but underneath it was something heavier. "I haven't told anyone this," he said, voice low. "Not even my closest friends." I stayed quiet, giving him space. "My wife and I, Sarah, we're separating. It's been coming for a while. We're planning to file after Allie graduates." I nodded once. "I'm sorry." "Don't be," he said quickly. "We haven't been us for years. We just stayed for Allie's sake. Keep the holidays normal. Make things seem fine. But it's not. Hasn't been for a long time." He leaned back, his head touching the top of the couch as he stared at the ceiling. "I've felt invisible," he admitted. "Unwanted. Like I'm just filling a role. A paycheck, a ride to practice, a face in the house. But not a man. Not someone anyone sees." There it was. The crack in the armor. I reached up and rested my hand gently on his knee. "I see you." He looked down at me again, startled. Not by the words, but by how easily I said them. "I think you're incredibly desirable," I continued, voice steady. "Not just because you're handsome, but because you care. You notice things. You listen." His face softened. "You're more than enough, King." He didn't speak for a long moment. Then, almost cautiously, he placed his hand over mine. "I don't know what to do with that," he said. "You don't have to do anything," I replied. "I'm not asking for anything back. I just wanted you to know." His thumb brushed lightly over my knuckles. "I do want things," he whispered. "I'm just scared I'll mess them up." "You're not messing anything up," I said. "You're being honest. That's more than most people do." Another long beat of quiet stretched between us. This time, it didn't feel heavy, just full. The quiet between us stretched. Not awkward, but charged, like the air right before a storm. My hand still rested on his knee, and his palm was over, mine, warm and still. His thumb drifted across my knuckles slowly, like he didn't even realize he was doing it. King cleared his throat. "You're something else, Caleb." I tilted my head. "In a good way?" He gave a soft huff of laughter, in a dangerous way. I raised an eyebrow. "Dangerous how?" He looked at me then, not just glanced, but looked, deep and deliberate. His eyes searched my face like I might be a question he wasn't sure he was supposed to answer. "You're sharp," he said. "You're bold, and you know exactly what you're doing." I leaned in a little, keeping my voice soft. "Maybe. But I also know what you're doing." King gave a small, amused shake of his head. "Yeah?" You're sitting here with your heart cracked open, I said, trying to play it cool. But you're not just lonely, King. You're starved. The muscles in his jaw flexed. I let that truth settle in the room before I added, you don't need a distraction. You need to feel something again. He swallowed. You're not wrong. Then, after a beat, he added with a dry chuckle, I'd offer you some practice before college, but I think that'd get me in trouble. The smile I gave him wasn't playful. It was slow, steady, deliberate. I didn't answer him with words. Instead, I rose up from the floor, only to lower myself again, between his knees this time. My hands rested lightly on his thighs as I looked up at him. His expression changed, eyes wide, breath caught. He tensed like someone who'd just realized the dream was real and didn't know if they were allowed to enjoy it. I didn't move any closer, didn't say anything suggestive. Just sat there, between him and the rest of the world, and waited. Caleb, he said, voice hoarse. You don't have to. I know. I tilted my head. But is this what you want? The silence that followed was louder than any answer could have been. King looked at me like he was waging a war inside his own body. But when he finally nodded, slowly, unmistakably, it wasn't from lust, it was from need. Yeah, he whispered. It is. I exhaled, steady and calm. Okay. He looked like he might speak again, but I placed a hand on his chest. Not to push, not to pull, just to feel the rhythm of his heart beneath my palm. His hand rose, hovered near mine, and then settled over it. I haven't felt seen in so long, he murmured. Not like this. You are, I said. Right now. The world outside. The house disappeared. No cars, no errands, no clocks ticking down. It was just us, suspended in this fragile, electric moment. I could feel his breath change beneath my fingertips. His knees shifted, subtly opening more. His thumb grazed my hand, his other knuckles white from gripping the couch. But I didn't rush it, because this wasn't about conquest. It wasn't even about desire, not entirely. It was about giving someone something they hadn't known they were starving for. To be touched without pretense. To be wanted without shame. To be chosen. King let out a breath like he'd been holding it for years. His shoulders dropped. His gaze never left mine. You're not like other kids, he said, voice trembling just enough to matter. I'm not a kid, I replied. His hand squeezed mine, and then everything else faded. The tension, the second-guessing, the years of feeling invisible. I leaned in, not because he asked, but because I could. Because in that moment, I knew exactly what he needed, and I wanted to be the one who gave it. The sudden rumble of the garage door broke the spell like a snap of thunder. I jerked upright, heart pounding, breath caught in my throat. King's eyes flicked toward the sound, then back to me. He didn't look startled, or panicked, just amused, relaxed even. The corners of his mouth pulled into a lazy grin, and he reached for the nearest throw pillow, tossing it casually into his lap. I scrambled back to my original seat across the sectional, wiping my palms discreetly on my jeans and trying to will my flushed skin into something resembling neutral. Smooth, he murmured, lips twitching. I shot him a look. You're enjoying this. Immensely, he whispered, just as the door from the garage swung open. Allie's voice came first, rushing into the hallway like a storm. Caleb, I'm so sorry. Mom wanted to go to 3 different stores. I swear, I only needed batteries and snacks. She darted into the living room, her arms full of plastic bags, her eyes wide with apology. No worries, I said quickly, standing up and grabbing my car keys. I've been fine. King cleared his throat. We just caught up a bit, Allie beamed. He's the best, isn't he? I didn't look at him. Yeah, he really is. 5 minutes later, we were back in my car, her playlist blasting and the wind pouring through the windows. She chatted nonstop about who would be at the campsite, who was bringing what, and which tent poles always came loose. But I wasn't really listening. I was staring at the road ahead, one hand on the wheel, the other resting over my knee. I could Still smell him, cedarwood and soap, and something uniquely him. I could still feel the weight of that hour pressed into my chest like a fingerprint. He didn't regret it. He didn't flinch or shrink. And neither did I. Allie laughed at something, on her phone, and nudged my arm. "You good?" "Yeah," I said, smiling out the window. "I'm really good." We kept driving, and in the quiet between her songs, I thought back to that moment just before the door opened, when he smiled at me like I was the first person who'd looked at him in years. He told me to call him King, and for one perfect hour, that's exactly what he was.